The sky burned. Bright red fireballs fell from the heavens as the Kravix Dominion launched their latest attack. The peaceful Valari people ran through the streets, holding their children and crying out to the stars for mercy. Their cities, once full of gardens and music, were now silent, crushed under the weight of war machines. The Valari had never known war. They were not soldiers. They were healers, teachers, artists. For generations, they believed peace could solve everything. But peace had failed. Now, with the Kravix ships closing in and their last defenses falling, the Valari elders gathered in the Temple of Echoes. It was an ancient place, built long before the stars had names. Deep beneath it lay a forgotten device, something buried by their ancestors. A beacon. "We do not know who will answer," said Elder Male, her voice shaking, "but we have no other hope." The beacon had not been used in 1,000 years. Its purpose was simple: send one signal far into the galaxy, a call for help. But the message was old, written in a forgotten language. None of the Valari even knew if it would still work. They activated it anyway. A soft hum filled the chamber. Lights flickered. Then silence. The beacon flashed once, then again, and then nothing. The elders waited. Days passed. The Kravix landed on the surface, crushing cities with their massive walkers. They laughed as they took what they wanted. "Your prayers are useless," one Kravix commander sneered to a captured Valari. "No one is coming. No one cares." But he was wrong. Far beyond the edges of known space, in a cold, dark field of dead stars, something stirred. A ship, black as the void, opened its eyes. Its systems blinked to life. Others followed. Dozens of warships, ancient and silent for centuries, slowly began to move. Inside them, the crew began to wake. They were not young. They were not new. These were old warriors, humans, from another time. Their faces were scarred, their armor scratched and dented. They wore symbols of old Earth, from wars no one remembered. Their leader stepped forward. His name was Commander Arik Voss. The moment he saw the Valari signal, his face turned. Hard. He knew the code. It was a distress call from the early days of the Galactic Wars, a code only the last survivors of the Iron Wars would recognize. "They're calling us?" one soldier asked. Arik nodded. "Yes, and we will answer." The fleet moved like a shadow, through space. Silent. Deadly. It entered the Valari system just as the last major city fell. Kravix commanders laughed as they raised their flag above the Temple of Echoes. Then the sky changed. A dark shape appeared in orbit. Then another. And another. In total, 12 human warships surrounded the planet. No one had seen ships like these in ages. They looked like black daggers with glowing red cores. The Kravix scanned them, confused. The technology was old, but powerful. Too powerful. The lead Kravix general stepped forward and shouted at the skies. "Who are you?" A voice came through every speaker, every radio, every helmet. "We are the forgotten blades of Earth. You have brought war to the wrong doorstep." Then, without warning, the sky exploded. Human warships fired with ancient rail cannons and plasma torpedoes. The Kravix fleet, caught off guard, was torn apart in minutes. Explosions lit the night. One Kravix cruiser tried to flee, only to be sliced in half by a precision strike. On the surface, Valari villagers stared in shock as the Kravix ran in, fear for the first time. The Valari elders watched from their ruined temple. They looked up as human dropships landed nearby. Soldiers in old black armor stepped out. One of them, tall and silent, removed his helmet. It was Arik. "You sent a prayer," he said simply. "We answered." Elder Male stepped forward, unsure. "You are humans?" "We were," Arik replied, "long ago. Now, we are what remains of humanity's war legends." The Valari didn't know what to say. They had prayed for hope, for peace. But what they got was something else. a force born from Earth's darkest wars, a fleet of legends, awakened. Smoke still rose from the Kravik's wreckage. Their once mighty fleet now floated in pieces above the Valari homeworld. On the ground, the people stared at the strange new visitors. Humans, or at least what remained of them. They looked nothing like the soft diplomats shown in old galactic records. These humans were different. Silent. Cold. Their armor was thick and scarred. Symbols of past battles were scratched into every piece, some in languages no Valari could read. The lead warrior, Commander Arik Voss, stood tall. His armor made no sound when he moved. His eyes scanned every building, every shadow. It was as if he didn't trust the peace. Even after victory, Valari Elder Mile approached him slowly. "You saved our world," she said quietly. "But where did you come from?" Arik looked to the sky, his face unreadable. "We were asleep." The other humans began to gather, forming tight units, checking weapons and scanning for threats. They moved like they had done it 1,000 times before. No words, just signals and action. Elder Mile frowned. "Asleep?" Arik nodded. "We are the last soldiers from the Iron Wars. When Earth fell silent, we went into cryo-sleep. We waited. We told our systems to wake us only if a true call for help was sent." "You waited for centuries?" "Yes," Arik said. "We were not meant to return. But your signal, it was one of ours. Ancient Earth codes, buried deep." The Valari gathered nearby, listening in silence. Children peeked from behind rubble. Some touched the humans' armor with curiosity, but the humans didn't smile. They stood still, their faces hard and cold. "We are not peacekeepers," Arik warned. "We are weapons." Inside one of the human dropships, Valari engineers were given a glimpse of ancient human technology. It was old, but terrifying. One machine, half buried in dust, was labeled Voltar X11, Urban Eraser. The humans had names for their war tools like demons had for their blades. One Valari technician whispered, "Why did you make these things?" A human answered without looking up, "Because we had no choice. In the old wars, mercy meant death." That night, the humans built a base outside the ruins. They didn't rest. They didn't remove their armor. They simply worked, quiet and focused. Elder Mile and her council met with Arik near the ancient beacon. "Your presence saved us," one Valari said. "But many are afraid." "They should be," Arik replied. Silence followed. Then he added, "We will not stay long. Once your world is safe, we return to sleep." Elder Mile asked, "Why go back to sleep? You could live again. You could rebuild." Arik shook his head. "We are not made for peace. We were designed for war. When peace returns, we become dangerous." Elsewhere, on a nearby Kravix-controlled moon, panic was spreading. The few surviving Kravix warlords were shouting across communication channels. "They were supposed to be extinct," one growled. "They are myths," screamed another. "Stories from when the humans destroyed the Cyrex Empire." But the scans were real. The humans were back, and they were hunting. One Kravix leader, General Lorvac, snarled, "Then we become legends too. Send everything, every ship, every crawler, burn that world before they rise again." Back on Valari soil, Arik stood outside, the human command post, watching the stars. His second in command, a soldier named Ryla, walked beside him. "You think the Kravix will return?" she asked. "They have to," Arik said. "They can't let this shame stand." "What happens when we win again?" Arik didn't answer right away. Then he said, "We go back under. We are not heroes, Ryla. We are old blades, kept sharp for moments like this." Ryla looked down at the Valari children playing near a broken fountain. "They think we're here to save them," she whispered. "We are," Arik replied. "But they won't thank us when they see how we do it." The next day, warning alarms rang through the human base. Scanners picked up incoming ships, hundreds of them. The Kraviks had returned, and this time, they brought everything. Arik stepped into his armor, locking it tight. "To all units," he said calmly over the comms. "Prepare for Shadow Protocol." The humans moved like ghosts, vanishing into the forests and ruins. No bright uniforms, no loud machines. They became part of the world. Valari guards watched in confusion. "Where are they going?" one asked. Elder Mael looked toward the horizon. "They're not running," she said softly. "They're getting into position." Because the old warriors had walked again. And soon, the galaxy would remember why they were feared. Night fell across the Valari forests, but this was not peaceful darkness. It was the kind of night where something ancient moved through the trees, silent, watching, waiting. The Kraviks had returned. Hundreds of ships landed on the far side of the planet. Their walkers, tanks, and flyers rolled across the burned fields. They believed the humans had run. They believed the Valari were weak and helpless again. They were wrong. Commander Arik Voss stood hidden on a cliffside. Below him, Kravik's forces marched through the valley. Their machines crushed trees and stones without care. He tapped his helmet twice. All across the valley, human warriors moved from the shadows. They didn't attack with loud cannons or bright lasers. They used stealth, precision, fear. At midnight, a Kravik supply base exploded from within. No alarm had gone off, no shot was fired before the blast, only smoke remained. In another camp, Kravik soldiers found their communications tower destroyed. Their officers were missing. One soldier found his commander tied to a tree, alive but unconscious, marked with a strange earth symbol on his armor, a broken sword through a skull. The Kraviks panicked. "This is not war," one hissed. "This is a hunt." Back in the Valari capital, Elder Mael spoke to Ryla, the human second in command. "Your people, how are you doing this? We cannot even see your soldiers." Ryla looked calm. "We were trained to fight wars no one could. See, we learned from Earth's darkest days, from jungle ambushes, from city traps, from cold deserts and ice worlds." "But why hide?" the elder asked. "Why not fight face to face?" Ryla turned toward the window. "Because war is not about honor. It's about winning." Across the planet, the humans had split into small units. Each one had a mission. One team disabled enemy weapons by slipping into their camps at night and slicing power cores. Another hacked Kravik's walkers, turning them against each other. Some used sonic decoys to make Kravik's patrols run in circles. And one team, known only as Ghostfire, left nothing behind. No bodies, no sounds. Just silence where enemies once stood. The Kraviks tried to fight back. They set traps. They scanned with heat sensors. They brought in war beasts that could smell fear, but the humans were too old, too clever, too fast. They had been trained in wars where survival meant outthinking, not outshooting, the enemy. General Lorvac, the Kravik's commander, slammed his claws on a steel table. "They strike us like insects, tiny, annoying, but deadly," he growled. An officer replied nervously, "Our scans show only 300 of them." "Then why are we losing?" Lorvac shouted. "We are 10,000 strong." He turned toward the command screen. It showed a blinking red message. "Unknown unit identified. Earth designation, Legends of Iron." Lorvac froze. He had heard that name before, in war stories whispered by survivors of long-dead empires. Tales of human units that never lost, because they never followed the rules. "Activate emergency protocol," he said quietly. "We are not fighting soldiers. We are fighting monsters." Near the Eastern Sea, a Valari scout group discovered a destroyed Kravik's base. They didn't know who had done it until they found something carved into the steel wall. This is just the beginning. The humans had left a message, a warning, and the Valari realized something important. The humans were not just fighting to protect them, they were fighting to remind the galaxy what fear felt like. In the forests, Auric gathered his units. "They're panicking," he said. "It's working." One soldier asked, "When do we strike their main fortress?" "Soon," Auric replied. "But first, might we break their minds?" He pointed toward a Kravix forward base. "Tonight, they sleep. Tomorrow, they wake up to nothing." And he was right. At sunrise, the Kravix fortress was gone. No weapons, no food, no power. Even the ground beneath it was mined. One Kravix soldier screamed, "They are ghosts!" And still, the humans never appeared in daylight. From the shadows, they struck. From silence, they made the Kravix scream, and in every village, the Valari whispered the same words. "The legends of Earth have returned, and they are worse than anything we imagined." The air was thick with smoke. Above the Valari mountains, dark clouds rolled in, but they weren't clouds. They were Kravix warships, hundreds of them. Shaped like metal beetles, they blotted out the sun. Each ship carried swarms of fighters, drones, and high-energy plasma bombs. General Lorvac was done playing games. "If the humans hide on the ground," he growled, "then we take the skies. Let's see how long their ghosts survive fire from above." He sent the full force of the Kravix fleet toward the Valari capital. Elder Mayal watched the sky turn black. Her people screamed as the city's alarm bells rang. They had no ships. No air defense, not even shields. This would be the end, but high above the clouds. The humans were already waiting. 12 warships, ancient, deadly, forgotten by time, powered up their engines. Each one was a flying fortress, built during humanity's last great war. Commander Auric Voss stood on the bridge of the HSS Revenant, his eyes locked on the Kravix fleet. "They brought an air army," said Ryla beside him. Auric nodded. "Good, so did we." The human ships moved, but they didn't charge forward in a straight line. No, they split apart like knives in the wind, each one taking a different angle. Their flight paths were impossible to predict. The Kravix saw them coming. "They are few," shouted one commander. "Destroy them!" But as the first human ship came into range, it suddenly vanished, then reappeared behind the Kravix line. It fired one rail shot, silent, bright blue, and an entire Kravix cruiser shattered. The battle had begun. The sky lit up with fire. Red plasma bolts flew in every direction. Human railguns cut through Kravix hulls like paper. Missile trails looped and twisted like serpents. Human ships moved faster than their age should have allowed, their AI systems predicting every move. Kravix ships fell in pieces, raining fire onto the ground. On the surface, Valari villagers looked up, eyes wide. "It's like the stars are bleeding," whispered one child. Inside the HSS Revenant, alarms beeped. A Kravix destroyer locked onto them with 4 missile pods. "They're targeting us," said Ryla. Auric smiled slightly. "Then let's remind them why we were feared." The ship's engines flared. It rolled, twisted, and dove straight at the Kravix vessel. The Kravix tried to fire, but the Revenant spun, unleashed flak bursts mid-air, and burst through the destroyer's bridge like a spear. The Kravix ship exploded. The Revenant emerged through the flames, untouched. But the fight wasn't easy. The Kravix numbers were too many. Even with advanced tech and tactics, the human warships began to take damage. HSS Tempest lost an engine. HSS Widow was surrounded. Inside the Widow, pilot Kai Morin called out, "This is Widow 1. We're outnumbered. We need air cover. Now!" "Hold position," came Auric's voice. "Hold? We're about to be torn apart." "No. You're bait." Kai blinked. "What?" Suddenly, 6 human stealth fighters, black and silent, burst from the clouds above. They dropped EMP charges directly onto the Kravix ships attacking the Widow. In seconds, the enemy ships froze mid-air, then fell like stones. General Lorvac watched in disbelief. "They are using ancient tech," he hissed. "How are they doing this?" One of his lieutenants trembled. "They fight like they've done this 1,000 times." Lorvac slammed his fist into the console. "They have!" Back in orbit, the human ships pulled back to regroup. Inside, The Revenant, damage reports came in. We've lost 3 fighter drones, said Ryla. The Widow is limping. Arik didn't look worried. This is just the warm-up, he said. Ryla turned to him. Then what's next? He looked at the holomap. A glowing red marker showed the main Kravix command ship, the Dreadfang. We cut off the head. Below, the Volari watched as fire rained from the sky. They weren't afraid anymore, not of the Kravix. They stood on rooftops and fields, cheering every time a Kravix ship exploded. For the first time in history, they had defenders who didn't run, didn't beg, and didn't surrender. The Volari didn't understand the humans' weapons, but they understood one thing. When the skies turned red, Earth's warriors were just getting started. The battle wasn't over. The Kravix were wounded, but not dead. And now the humans were planning to go straight for the heart, because blood was already in the skies, and soon, it would flood the stars. The Dreadfang was more than a warship. It was a floating city of death. Nearly 3 kilometers long, it held thousands of Kravix troops, dozens of heavy plasma cannons, and its own shield generator. From above the planet, it watched like a dark god. General Lorvac stood on its bridge, claws tight around a rail. His eyes burned with rage. We lost half our fleet, he growled. And for what? A few hundred humans? An officer replied quietly. They fight like ghosts, like they already know every move we make. Lorvac slammed the console. Then let's give them a fight they can't win. Power the main cannon. Burn the Volari capital to ash. In the Volari city, alarms blared. The humans picked up the Dreadfang's power-up sequence. Main cannon charging, Ryla reported. 2 minutes until firing. Commander Arik Voss nodded. Then we end it now. He looked across the human war room. His old soldiers stood ready, battle-scarred, silent, waiting for the command. We hit the Dreadfang from inside. Arik said. No bombardment. No airstrike. We board it directly. A Volari advisor gasped. You want to board that thing? It's a death trap. Arik turned his cold eyes to the map. That's what they think. Minutes later, the sky ripped open again. 4 human stealth ships blasted through the clouds, cloaked and fast. They weaved through Kravix patrols, ignoring gunfire, ignoring missiles. Their target, the underbelly of the Dreadfang. At full speed, they crashed into it, like darts striking a beast. Hatches blew open, and the legends of Earth stormed inside. Inside the Dreadfang, alarms screamed. Red lights blinked in every corridor. Kravix guards rushed to the docking bay, but found only smoke. And then the first human attack hit. Explosive rounds tore through their armor. Blades slashed through power suits. Human war chants echoed through the halls, low, calm, terrifying. One Kravix soldier fired wildly. A figure moved through the smoke, fast, silent. Too late. The human blade took him down. Arik Voss led the front team through the ship's lower levels. He moved like a machine, shooting, stabbing, advancing. We pushed to the reactor, he said. No mercy. Behind him, Ryla's team split left, heading for the control bridge. Their goal, disable the cannon. Time was short. On the bridge of the Dreadfang, General Lorvac watched in shock. They've boarded us? He grabbed a rifle and barked orders. Close all bulkheads! Lock down the lower decks! But it was already too late. The humans had moved faster than expected. Security footage showed Eric's team wiping out Kravix squads in seconds. Grenades flew through doors before they even opened. Smoke-covered halls, human tech jammed the Dreadfang's sensors. They're inside the ship's heart, said a Kravix tech. We're blind! In the reactor room, Arik planted a heavy explosive. 5 minutes, he said. That's all we need. But before they could leave, a Kravix heavy squad appeared. Giant armored beasts with shock rifles. One of them fired. A human soldier was hit and thrown across the wall. Dead. Arik didn't blink. He threw a flash bomb, charged into the light, and cut through the first Kravix with his blade. Sparks and blood flew. Behind him, his team followed without fear, because they weren't just soldiers. They were humanity's last fury. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Ryla's team reached the control room. It was guarded by Lorvac himself. "You think this is your victory?" he snarled. Ryla aimed her weapon. "No, this is your reminder." They fought hand to hand. Lorvac was strong, claws like daggers, armor like stone. But Ryla was faster, smarter. She used the room itself, flipping over consoles, sliding under his swings. Her blade found the weak spot between his armor plates. Lorvac fell to one knee, and she whispered, "You should have left us buried." Then she struck the final blow. "Control room clear," Ryla said into her comm. "Do it." Arik and his team reached their exit point. "Everyone out," he said. They launched themselves out of the ship through emergency pods. The stealth shuttles picked them up mid-air, vanishing into the clouds again. From the ground, the Valari watched as the Dreadfang began to glow. A deep rumble shook the sky. Then, boom. The ship cracked open in the upper atmosphere. Fire spilled across the clouds. Pieces rained like falling stars. The Dreadfang was gone. Elder Mael dropped to her knees in the city square. "They did it," she whispered. "The humans. They destroyed a god." Children and warriors alike looked up, stunned. Not even their strongest dreams had imagined this moment. Inside the human base, Arik Voss stepped out of the drop shuttle. He removed his helmet and looked to the sky. "One threat down," he said. Ryla joined him. And many more watching. Because in the darkness beyond Valari space, other empires had seen the fall of the Dreadfang. And now, they feared Earth again. The Dreadfang was gone. The Kravix fleet was shattered. Smoke still floated in the sky above the Valari capital. But for the first time in many years, the people were free. Songs of victory echoed through the streets. Children danced. Warriors stood tall, but deep in space. Not everyone was celebrating. In the shadowed corners of the galaxy, silent eyes watched. On a cold planet covered in metal towers, a giant screen flashed with footage of the human assault. Warships striking from above. Explosions. Kravix ships falling like stones. The Dreadfang burning in the sky. A hooded figure stood before the screen. He was old, scarred, and silent. Behind him, an alien. Servant stepped forward. "Commander Dracul," the servant said, "it is confirmed. Humans have returned to war." Dracul's yellow eyes narrowed. "They were supposed to be extinct." "They were sleeping," the servant replied. "But now, they are awake." In the Zayari cluster, a council of merchants and nobles argued over the news. They defeated the Kravix flagship with only 12 ships. That's impossible. They have war tech from the Age of Fire. Weapons that bend gravity, crush stars, erase code. No one should have that power. Not again. Some wanted to attack Earth before it could rise further. Others wanted to beg for alliance, but none could agree. Fear had entered their hearts. The galaxy remembered. On a hidden moon, General Lorvac sat in a prison cage. His armor was gone, his pride shattered. 2 Kravix guards whispered outside the bars. "Do you think the humans will come here next?" "They destroyed the Dreadfang like it was made of dust." Lorvac growled from inside. "You fools think they are just warriors, but there's something worse. They're reminders of what we all fear." "What's that?" one guard asked. Lorvac leaned close to the bars. "That no matter how far we rise, humans will always return from the ashes." Back on Valari Prime, the people honored their human saviors with a grand celebration. Flowers covered the streets, bells rang across the hills. Children wore paper masks shaped like Earth's warships. But inside the human command room, there was no celebration, only preparation. Commander Arik Voss stood before a holomap of the galaxy. Red dots blinked across it, signals of fleets moving. Ships gathering, unknown movements in the dark. Ryla walked in. "They're coming, aren't they?" Arik nodded. "They always do." "We could leave. Let the Valari handle it now." He looked at her with calm, steel eyes. "They're not. Ready. And us?" He gave a small smile. "We were built for this." Across the stars, strange things began to happen. An ancient listening post near the core world suddenly went silent. An unknown fleet moved through the void sea, ships blacker than night, their flags unreadable. Whispers spread of a secret meeting between the surviving Kraviks and the mercenary kings of the Nara Syndicate. Even the machines on planet X9, a race that hadn't spoken in centuries, lit up with one word: humans. On Earth, in a buried command vault deep below the old mountains, red lights flashed, a sleeping AI activated after 300 years of silence. It read the galaxy's movements, then it sent a message across space, a warning: human war assets engaged. Star systems responding, threat level rising, Phase 2 authorization pending. The machines of Earth were waking up too. In the Valari city, Elder Mile spoke with Auric. "We are safe now," she said. "You should rest." Auric looked out the window, toward the stars. "No, this was just the first ripple." She frowned. "You think more are coming?" Auric nodded slowly. "I don't think. I know." That night, strange lights blinked in the sky. They were too far for Valari eyes to see clearly. But the humans saw. 5 unknown ships entered the system, silent, without ID, weapons ready. They didn't attack. They simply watched and left. Ryla watched them vanish into the dark. "Spies," she said. Auric crossed his arms. "Scouts. Someone out there just learned we're not dead." And in the deepest part of the galaxy, a voice echoed from a throne of bone and steel. "Earth rises again," the voice hissed. "And with it, our greatest threat," the Shadow Council began to gather. Each member had fought humans long ago. Each had scars that never healed. They had buried Earth once. Now they would try again, and this time they would bring more than fleets. They would bring nightmares. The galaxy had prayed for allies. What they got were legends, but even legends cast long shadows. And now, the shadows were moving. The stars were not quiet anymore. After the fall of the Dreadfang, the galaxy shook with fear and confusion. Factions rose, others hid. Everyone knew something big was coming, but no one agreed on what to do, except the humans. They prepared for war, and they called for the Iron Suns. Deep beneath Valari soil, inside the Human Mobile Command Center, Ryla looked over a strange message. "Coordinates in the Lorne Drift," she said. "Buried tech. Heavy signal interference." Eric Voss stepped beside her. His face didn't change, but his eyes did. "I know what it is," he said quietly. She looked up. "What?" "It's where we put them to sleep. Hundreds of years ago, during Earth's last great war, humanity created a force unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They were called the Iron Suns, elite warriors born in war, trained in silence, and built with machines inside their bones. But when peace came, they were too dangerous to keep awake. So Earth hid them. Deep inside cold planets, locked away until needed again. That time had come. The stealth cruiser Phantom Edge traveled through asteroid fields and radiation storms to reach the Lorne Drift. No one followed. It was too dangerous. But the humans were not afraid. Auric and Ryla led a small team into the ancient vault. The doors were thick, sealed with codes from a forgotten age. When they entered, they found rows of tall metal coffins, lined up like statues in a tomb. Auric stepped forward and pressed his hand to a control panel. A quiet hum filled the room. Then, movement. The first coffin opened. Inside stood a giant man in black armor, silver lines glowing across his chest. His eyes opened, cold and sharp. "Commander," he said, his voice deep and metallic. "What war brings us back?" Auric answered. "The kind you were made for." Back on Valari Prime, the people saw strange ships landing, gray and black, heavy with armor. From them stepped the Iron Suns, tall, silent, unshaken. Each one was a walking weapon, their bodies enhanced, their minds trained only for battle. Valari warriors stopped and stared. Some stepped back, Elder Mile approached Auric. Are they safe? Auric looked at the Iron Suns with respect and fear. They're not safe, he said, but they're ours. The Shadow Council had not been idle. After hearing of the Iron Suns' return, they unleashed their own monsters. Dark fleets moved through wormholes. Bioengineered killers called the Vornox were dropped into nearby systems. Planets burned in silence. One system near Valari space, gone in hours, no survivors, no warning, just static. Ryla stood before the Council of Human Commanders. They're testing us, watching how we respond. They know the Iron Suns changed the game. Auric pointed. At the galactic map. They'll strike here next, he said. The twin moons of Corvallis. A commander asked. Why there? Because they hold the last deep space relay station. If we lose it, we go blind. Ryla looked across the room. Then we don't. Let them take it. The battle for Corvallis was brutal. The skies filled with black ships and human war cruisers. On the ground, the Iron Suns led the charge. They moved like shadows through fire. Plasma bolts bounced off their armor. They didn't stop. They just advanced. Calm, brutal, perfect. One Iron Sun grabbed a Vornox beast by the neck and snapped it in half. Another tore through enemy armor with his bare hands. Ryla and her team provided air support, dropping precision strikes and extracting. Wounded. Auric fought beside the Iron Suns, just as he had in the old wars. His blade was red with alien blood. When the smoke cleared, Corvallis still stood. Barely. But it stood. Human banners waved again on its surface. And the message was clear. We are not afraid. We are ready. Across the galaxy, factions took sides. Some joined the humans, desperate for protection. Others joined the Shadow Council, hoping to destroy Earth once and for all. The galaxy was splitting in two, and in the center of it all stood the Iron Suns. That night, around a fire pit in the Valari Mountains, Auric sat with one of the Iron Suns, Unit 07, known only as Kale. Auric handed him a drink. Do you remember peace? Kale looked at the fire. We were not made for peace. You ever regret it? Kale didn't answer at first. Then he said, We regret nothing. But we remember everything. He looked up at the stars, and soon, they will remember us too. The Iron Suns had returned, the old power of Earth had awakened, and the final war was almost here. The stars were at war. Across the galaxy, fleets burned. Empires fell. Planets cried for help. But no help came, except from Earth, except from the humans. From a forgotten planet at the edge of known space rose legends. On Valari. Prime, Commander Auric Voss stood before a screen showing enemy fleets. The Shadow Council had launched their final attack. 5 massive armadas, 10 Vornox hives, dozens of warlords and mercenaries, all heading for one place. Earth, the Human War Council, met in silence. No panic, no fear. Auric spoke. They want to end us. Wipe Earth off the map. Take what we built, what we protected. Ryla stepped forward. But they forgot one thing. Everyone looked at her. You can't erase legends. The Iron Suns prepared for battle. Their armor was polished, weapons recharged, eyes glowing like fire in the dark. Each one had only one command. Defend Earth. Back in deep space, the fleets of the Shadow Council arrived near Earth's orbit. They waited. Scanning, plotting. The lead commander, a twisted creature named Grawl, smiled in his throne ship. So this is Earth? He growled. Small, weak, forgotten. A voice answered from deep space. That's your first mistake. Grawl's smile vanished. In that moment, space tore open. Human warships burst through warp gates. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. Old Earth dreadnoughts, plasma fangs, gravity splitters. Machines so ancient, even the stars didn't remember. Them. The entire sky turned red with human fury. The battle began. Missiles screamed, shields shattered, stars flared. The iron suns dropped from orbit like meteors, landing hard on enemy carriers. Each one became a storm, blades spinning, weapons roaring. Kale, the iron sun from Lorne Drift, led a charge into the enemy flagship. He carved a path through machines, beasts, and soldiers. Behind him, Auric and Ryla followed. They fought like it was their last day. Back on Earth, civilians watched from bunkers and sky domes. Children pressed their hands against glass, eyes wide as the sky flashed with light and war. Elder Mile, safe now on Earth, whispered, "They were never just soldiers. They were warnings." The battle raged for hours. Enemy ships fell like broken bones into the sea. But then, something massive arrived. The Shadow Council's final weapon, the Devourer, a world-sized ship, built to erase planets. It charged its core. One blast, and Earth would vanish. Auric stood on the command deck of Skyhammer 1. Ryla shouted, "We don't have enough power to stop that thing." He replied calmly, "Then we give it everything." He ordered all ships into formation, a war wall. 10,000 ships aligned, the old Earth code, wall of fire. The order was clear. Burn the Devourer, every cannon, every laser, every fusion lance. They fired at once. Light exploded across space. The Devourer's shields held for 5 seconds. Then broke, then melted. Then the giant weapon cracked and exploded into dust. Silence. The enemy was broken, their fleets shattered, their leaders dead. Across the galaxy, screens flickered, messages echoed planet to planet. Earth stands. The legends have returned. We are free. In the ruined sky, Auric sat on the bridge, blood on his arm. Smoke around him, Ryla sat beside him. "We did it," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "We reminded them," she smiled. "Of what?" He looked out the window toward Earth. "That legends never die." Final scene. Years later. On a peaceful planet, a Valari child sat beside a campfire. She looked up at the stars and asked her grandmother, "Is it true that humans saved the galaxy?" The elder smiled. "They didn't just save it," she said softly. "They showed us what happens when forgotten warriors rise again."